Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dale Slattery, Vice President Creative here at Graphically Speaking. We all know that marketers put a lot of effort into strategizing and executing SEO and digital campaigns, and there's no shortage of data to measure the success of their efforts. The key is to identify and interpret the metrics that matter most, or what activities are going to give you the biggest bang for your marketing dollars. To help you sort through the analytics noise, we're bringing you two subject matter experts in the field of data analytics and digital marketing. We have Tom Patrician, founder of Data Collective. The Data Collective is a boutique agency focused on helping businesses turn disparate data sources into insights and actions that will drive better business outcomes. We also have Mike Giles from Graphically Speaking with us. Mike is a marketing specialist and a digital marketing team lead with Graphically Speaking. So before I turn this over to our first speaker, Tom Patrician, I want to say, Tom, that it's great that you were able to join us today. We were slated to have Tom speak in person at our March BCIT meetup, but COVID-19 showed up instead. And of course, we had to cancel that event. So I'm really happy to have you back with us today, Tom.
Happy to be here. Excellent. Well, like a lot of you, I've been staying closer to home. And once we get the screen up here. Okay. Can we see the screen, Dale?
Yep. You actually, sorry, I'm not seeing your screen.
Okay, there we go. Okay, well, like a lot of you, I've been staying closer to home, so a lot easier to kind of make these types of meetups and sessions since I'm not traveling as much as I normally would. As Dale mentioned, we're going to talk about data and the importance of why you need to have clean data. As a marketer, I have worked with data for most of my 25 plus years, and that data has come in all different types of sources. As early as even 5-6 years ago, most of that data was in Excel spreadsheets. Now it's in Google Sheets. Now it's in databases like BigQuery, MySQL, and it's a lot easier to get at, and you can deal with it a lot more. And in the industry, within the data industry, we talk a lot about data, but the focus is always on big data. And that means different things to different people. Big data can mean data that's sitting in a warehouse like BigQuery or Microsoft Azure, or it can mean more than 60,000 rows in a Excel spreadsheet. But the fact is that most of us, don't have big data to deal with in our roles that we have. We have what I would call small data, and that can be as simple as a spreadsheet with 100, 200 rows, or it can be your own data that sits in Google Analytics. I've always had a love-hate relationship with data because in my career, I've worked on large sites with hundreds of thousands of pages. And when you're trying to do a forensic audit for SEO on that type of a site that has millions of visitors every month, you can end up with crashing your spreadsheets on quite a regular basis. But with today's tools, it's much easier to kind of get at that data and work with it. But if the data is not clean, it's not really as helpful as it should be. So you want to make sure that you have clean data. And it doesn't matter if you're a marketer or a developer. And I know we've got some developers with us today. So if you're coming from the development side of it, the projects that you're building are going to integrate with all other types of web development analytics, dynamic forms, UI and UX elements, and much more. So it's important that the work that you're doing helps to ensure that the data that flows into analytics, whether it be Google Analytics or some other platform, is as clean as possible and doesn't have any errors in it. So we all have a job to ensure that the data that we're working with is not only clean from once it's in its source, but also as it flows into its source like GA. With many typical online environments today, we're dealing with anywhere from 10 to 35, 40 applications. We've got our websites, we've got tools like a CRM, sales tools like Pipedrive, we've got payment tools like Stripe and PayPal, accounting programs like Xero, All of these tools, Slack, Excel, Google Sheets, all these tools tend to kind of sit off on their own. And when you first start using them, they don't really have that integration. And then on the left-hand side here, we've got, all our kind of marketing data, all our data coming from the website. And when you're trying to analyze this data as a marketing and figure out who your contacts really are, it can be quite difficult. And you could end up with reports that aren't very easy to follow or aren't very accurate to use and can lead to misleading assumptions that you're making in your marketing campaigns. So it's important that your data is clean. And the best place to start is with Google Analytics, because it's one of the most available free tools that we have to us. And it's easy to set up and start collecting and aggregating data from your website. Without it, if it's not clean, you're not able to kind of trust the data that you have. So this can be very important when you're looking at breakdowns of just simple things like your data between desktop and tablet versus mobile. You want to make sure you have a very clean division so you can understand what levers you need to pull on the marketing side in order to make some improvements in your campaigns. Now, a quick question for everybody. How many of you believe that you have clean data in Google Analytics? Just type clean data into the chat window if you do. Hopefully everybody can access the chat window. Here we go. Nope, we got a couple. One clean, excellent. I don't know. And the simple fact is most people don't know. They just think that, because Google Analytics, Google is a huge company, they must have it all figured out. But despite how good they are, there are other nefarious actors out there who are trying to mess with your data. And I'll show you some examples of that coming up. But you'll be surprised, depending on how long your website's been around, how many revisions it's gone through, how much traffic you get, it may be less clean than you actually believe. Now, there's a number of ways we can deal with the data in Google Analytics. One, we can fix the issue at the source. And we can do that by creating filters within Google Analytics, making sure that we've got the right filters kind of set up for everything from our campaigns right through to the more technical components that might interpret what a visitor looks like to you. We can also apply filters in GA, and those filters are more at the user level. So one of the things with Google Analytics is once a row of data is written to the table, you can't change it. So if you're trying to adjust your historical data, you have to create filters and segments within Google Analytics in order to kind of adjust past data so that it is clean. And finally, you can also clean it with BI tools such as Power BI, Google Data Studio, which is free, and set up filters within those tools in order to exclude that data. But the best way to do it is to fix the issue at the source. Now, as a marketer, there's nothing more frustrating than, having, going into Google Analytics and looking at your data and trying to figure out what's working and what's not working. Now, typically, if you haven't tagged your source, you can end up with an example like this, where you have a large number of users ending up in this, what we call the other bucket. So rather than sitting in paid search, organic search, or in social, it's off here sitting in this other bucket, which doesn't really mean anything. So in order to analyze it, I have to go deeper into it to get a better sense of what's really working. The best way to solve this is just to make sure that any of your campaigns that you're using, use the Google campaign URL builder. And that makes it really easy for you to create tags that will then filter that traffic into the proper sources for you to analyze. I like to use it also just to differentiate paid social from regular social. So that's one way that you can kind of separate your traffic sources, just like Google does it with paid ads, paid search versus organic search. So this is a one that you can easily do at your end. Just be consistent with your tagging, use underscores, because as you'll see in a few minutes, if you're using upper and lowercase, that could have cause a bit of an issue for your traffic as well and your data. Also update your organic search. As you can see here in this example, this is actually the referral table here of data that I'm looking at. And you can see things like search Yahoo Canada, ask.com. What else we have in there? We've got a site called SearchLock. And all of this is really search engine traffic, but it's put into the referral basket. And we just want to make sure that that's changed. So you can easily just go into your admin section within Google Analytics, go into tracking info, and then organic search sources, and add in additional search engines that Google's not picking up. Why it's not picking up Yahoo is beyond me. That's a pretty common one, but you may be getting traffic from Yandex, Bing, which is now obviously Microsoft. DuckDuckGo is another one that you'd want to probably put in there as well. AOL, depending on the traffic that you're getting. So you can create these filters, and Google, once you create them, Google will start putting that traffic into the organic search basket, which makes it a lot easier for you to analyze over time. You also want to exclude your internal traffic. Now, if you've got a large company, even if you've got a small one with 10 people, it's very easy, especially in the B2B world, to add a lot of extra user sessions, page sessions to the data that you're having. So make sure that you get the IP addresses of all your staff and create filters in the admin view filter section to exclude that data so that it's not skewing the results that you've got. In some cases, I see this in a lot of cases where companies launched a brand new website and they've done a ton of testing, not only on their beta site, but then once the site is launched, they've done further testing, and you see this huge spike in traffic coming on the days that follow the launch of the site, which isn't, is going to skew your bounce rates, it's going to skew your conversion rates, your pages per session rates. So you want to be able to exclude all that data up front, dealing with it at the source. So when is a red dress not a red dress? When you spell it using different ways. And as I mentioned earlier with the UTM builder, if you use lowercase and uppercase, Google will then treat those as separate entities within the data within Google Analytics. So red dress in all lowercase can be very different from the red dress with a capital R and a capital D versus the bottom one. So what you'll have is 3 different instances of red dress within your data. You want to be able to collate this all and have it all together. And one way to do that is within the admin section as well, is creating a filter to combine, and you want to do this for everything from campaign name to source to medium to content to page paths. You want to be able to account for the case in all of these different situations. So you've got lowercase for the campaign names. These filters are very easy to kind of set up, and you can go through and create 5 or 6 of these for the different elements that you have here to ensure that your data is as consistent as possible within Google Analytics. Now you also want to combine source data. If you look at your data today, you might see 4 or 5 examples or different URLs, domains for Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. It's not uncommon to see, m.facebook.com from their mobile site, l.facebook, facebook.com, and each time Google Analytics is treating these as individual sources. So I like to kind of combine these. And there's a real simple filter that you can use, a search string that you can add here into your filter for this particular case to deal with that. And once again, you'll want to do this for Twitter, for Facebook, for LinkedIn, anywhere that you're seeing a lot of traffic coming from that might have multiple sources of traffic. You're going to want to create these filters in order to combine all the different combinations of the domains that you see here today. Now, when it comes to the bots, you would hope that Google would have this figured out. And to a large extent, they've gotten a lot better at blocking bots to your traffic, to your Google Analytics data over the last couple of years. But they're still allowing some new ones to come through, and also some nefarious ones that come out from time to time. The easiest way to get rid of this, get rid of the bulk of it, is to go into admin view settings, and there's a little text box that you can click to exclude all known bots and spiders. But as I said, that doesn't get all of them. So you want to be able to block other crawler spam, and there's a lot of it out there. Now, a gentleman by the name of Carl Escalara has put together a great resource, and you can find it on his website at carloseo.com. This isn't all of it. This is, I think, about 2/3 of the different crawler spam that he's put together, and he updates the list usually once a quarter. So you can go to his website, grab the most recent snapshot of all of the different types of crawler spam that's out there, add that to your filter, and then you're up and running. And that will start excluding it from your data moving forward. You might also find ISP crawlers infecting your data, including from Google, HubSpot, Alibaba, Amazon. All of these large businesses have their own crawlers that they use for legitimate means, and they'll be crawling your websites and creating additional rows of data in your analytics that skew your results. So once again, you also want to exclude these, and Carlos has once again provided a quick and easy way to do that. So it's pretty easy to kind of grab these filter patterns, put them into the filter. You don't have to write them from scratch, so it's pretty easy to get up and running that way. You also want to exclude query parameters. So if you've got a website that has a lot of parameters, so it's a dynamic website, you're not dealing with static URLs, it's very easy for Google then to take each different URL or each different parameter that you have and treat it as a different URL. So rather than having a nice collated view of all the traffic to a single page, you've got 20 variations of that page within Google's top landing page report or Google top page report rather than just one page. So it's a lot more difficult to analyze that way. I like to aggregate all of that data. And once again, you could use these filters here, elements within the filter to do that, to basically just remove all of the query parameters that you have on your, in your data to have a nice clean URL at the end of the day. But all of that's not going to stop ghost spam as well. So ghost spam can, and I'll show you an example here coming up, is another kind of form of bots and spiders that can infect your data and sometimes even leave interesting messages for you. The best way to kind of deal with this is just to create a filter for your host name. And for that, you just put in your domain name. So this one's a really simple one. And what that does, it excludes all other data that might be assigned to a different domain name. And you'd be surprised at what you might find when you go and look at your host name, the host name report. The easiest way to clean this up, as I mentioned, is just to create this filter, and that gets rid of all of that ghost spam that you might find within your site. One other area that not many people know of infecting Google Analytics is trying to disguise the data using a slightly different language. And you can see here, I've got an example where we've got English Canada, we've got Chinese down below, I think it is, Dutch Chinese. In the middle there, you can see the letter C. And when you look at the row of data there, it's got 100% bounce rate, 1 page per session, no session time at all, and it hasn't resulted in any transactions in revenue for this time frame. So I can easily see that this isn't worthwhile data that should even be in my Google Analytics view. So I want to be able to skew that. And sometimes they get a bit more interesting. If you want to know why Trump won the last election, was because his patriots were out there creating all this type of ghost spam to drive traffic to his website. I'm just joking, of course, but why someone would put that into the language here is beyond me. But you can see you get different types of examples outside of just C. And there's another quick fix with this one as well by creating a filter within it that excludes invalid languages. So you just take this filter pattern, add that into the field for filter patterns within this particular filter, and you're up and running. You can start excluding that data. Now, if you've only got a 5 or 10 sessions for it, it's not going to really skew the data. But if you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of data over time, hundreds of thousands of sessions over time, you can start to see that this is going to have an impact on things such as bounce rate, pages per session, your conversion rate. I can guarantee you this is not resulting in any transactions. So it's going to make your campaign performance and your efforts look worse than it actually is. So the higher that number is, the more that you need to kind of clean this one up and get it out of the way. And as I said, the easiest way to do that is with a language filter. There's also fake referral spam that can come across. Now, Google's gotten a lot better at dealing with this, but this, once again, is just, it's being injected into your Google Analytics by spammers, and their goal is for you to, go into your referrals report, see this keyword monitoring your success.com, click on it, and then you would go back to their and visit their website. That's the whole goal of doing this. Once again, you can clean this up fairly easily by just creating a filter to eliminate this type of spam. And I believe Carlos has a filter for this one as well. Now, if you've got an e-commerce site, you've probably got duplicate transactions. As I mentioned earlier, anytime a row of data is written to a table within Google Analytics, it's there forever. So you can't really get rid of it. And if you've got a transaction page that can be revisited after the first session, it's going to cause your transaction number to go up. So you can have multiple transactions for the same ID. Now, that within the same session, that might be a legitimate case. But if they're coming back in second or third or fourth visits, and you're seeing that number coming up because they're visiting that same transaction page, you're going to see a higher count of transaction, which is going to skew your data. So this one's a bit more technical, and you might need some help from your developer, but there's a way of dealing with this. First, you can create a report within the custom reports of Google Analytics to see it by combining transaction ID with transactions. Pretty easy to do yourself. But in order to deal with it, you need to create use the custom tag variable within Google Tag Manager to filter this data out. And a gentleman by the name of Simo Ava has put together a pretty good resource. I'll provide you with the link to that at the end, but he's developed a resource that, if you've got some technical chops, you could probably do on your own, but if you need a developer, it should be pretty easy for them to kind of follow along and implement those variables to clean up that data for you. Now, once you've set up all those filters, that's going to start filtering that data from the day they're entered or created. So if you do that tomorrow, all your data should be clean beyond tomorrow moving forward. But what happens if you want to go back and compare, next month to last month? Well, if you've got dirty data that's already sitting in Google Analytics, that's going to still be dirty. So you're going to want to kind of filter that out. And you can do that right within Google Analytics by creating a number of filters within the segment portion of Google Analytics to basically apply all of those filters that we just created within the admin section to the segments that you're dealing with. So you might have a new segment, users, called users clean data, that allows you to kind of clear all that data out so that you don't end up with that spam or ghost data all kind of infecting your numbers. And that's something you can do after the fact. As I said, I've got a bit more detail on that, which I'll provide you with in a minute. So I want to come back to this now. So those are the ways that you can clean up your data. The one that I haven't covered there is make sure that you're using HTTPS, because if you're not, any visits that come to your website, once you go from HTTPS to HTTPS, you lose some of the referral data. So you want to make sure that you're redirecting people from HTTP to HTTPS if you're using a secure certificate, and that will ensure that you don't lose any of the data that's coming across from any links and traffic. Now going back to this page, so this is kind of your typical scenario. We've got a whole bunch of applications on the right-hand side. We've got a ton of marketing campaigns that we're running. We've got the website itself, Google Analytics, and we've got this lonely contact in the middle. We're trying to figure out who is this contact. When the data is sitting on all these different sources, it's a lot harder to determine who that contact is and how to market to them effectively. Now, in the B2B world, you could be spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars to get a conversion with that user. So you want to make sure that you have the best possible view for that user. And today we've got some good tools that allow us to do that. One that I really like and recommend to everyone I deal with is a tool called Segment. They've got a company, it's a Silicon Valley company, but they've got a team of about 30 to 35 here in Vancouver. Great team, very knowledgeable. And this allows you to connect all of your different sources of data through your website and push that data into different applications, as well as into a warehouse like Azure or BigQuery or Amazon's warehouse as well. And from there, you can then start building profiles and doing some interesting remarketing campaigns with that data. But it's a real easy way to kind of make those connections between all the different applications that you have. So you start to get a better view of what that customer and visitor looks like. And once you do, you have the applications working together, you have the tools and the marketing campaigns working together, you start to see a much better view of who that customer is. For instance, this particular person, came from LinkedIn, loves data, loves marketing, is an entrepreneur. In the SaaS world, he's probably a gold VIP potential customer, and you're going to market differently to that person than you would if they're unknown. And then of course, you've got dashboards. But it can get even better. You can do a lot of different transformations. You can get real-time analytics, start doing predictive analytics on that data once it's in a warehouse. So it really kind of allows you to elevate your marketing skill set and implementation once you clean up the data. Once you've got all, you can start being a much better marketer and start really impressing those that need to be impressed within your organization. You can enrich that data. So as people are coming in, you can use tools that help you identify the domains, enriching the data with tools like Makuru, providing a score to it, and making it a lot easier to send off a triggered email to that particular user. So if they've come in and for whatever reason, maybe they're on a different browser and you're not able to identify them right away through the cookie, but you recognize their IP address you tie their IP address to domain, and you see that you have a record of their contact details within your CRM, you could trigger an email to them. It might not say, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" But it might be something to kind of trigger their memory that they've been to your site more recently. So it's just one of the ways that you can use this data now to start becoming a much more effective advertiser. You can also start doing other types of remarketing campaigns that really allow you to hit that user across different sources, rather than just setting up a campaign in Google AdWords for remarketing. You can do that across ad roll based on the same visit. So hit them in multiple sources in order to get their attention. And finally, having clean data allows you to ensure that all the data that you're looking at, whether it's slicing and dicing it by different types of devices, looking at it year over year, month over month, allows you to get a better sense of what's working and what's not working on your website. It's a lot easier to have a consistent view of your data in the buckets that you recognize and your organization uses, from day to day, month to month, year to year, than having it disjointed and disparate and trying to make things up as you go along, because you have to explain something to your management team why you're not getting the same conversion rate or the same average sale value that you were getting last year. And there's nothing more frustrating than having to do that. So if your data is consistent and clean, it's a lot easier for you as an organization, for you to interpret those results to your organization and look like the rock star that you are. So how do you get more information? You can go to Google, type in clean data Google Analytics, and I've got a large article there that goes through all the different topics with links to all the resources that I use to create this article and I use today in the accounts that I'm doing analysis and cleanup on. You can get examples as well as links to the Carlos SEO's detailed spam filters. So you can grab that data, pull it in, create your filters, and be up and running with a much cleaner view of your data tomorrow than what you have today. So if you were one of those people who don't know, I'm not sure, you don't have an excuse anymore to make sure. You can go into your analytics, have a look around, visit the different types of reports that I've shown here today, as well as in this document, and start taking the steps to ensure that you've got cleaner data moving forward. Because as Mike is going to share with you, when it comes to marketing campaigns, whether it's paid ads, social, or managing and reporting on your SEO, the cleaner this data is, the cleaner it is, the easier it is to identify what you need to be reporting and have that consistent view on your customer. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Mike for the next step.